All right, so if you follow comic books, then I'm glad you're watching because I want you to comment below on some of the things I'm about to talk about. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching, everybody. Today I want to talk about comic books. I want to talk about the superheroes that I liked, and I want to hear which ones you liked and who you think's powerful, and kind of comment on some of the stuff I'm talking about. So the very first comic I ever really liked when I was a little kid was Green Lantern, actually. Here is Tales of the Green Lantern Corps. This was actually one of the first comic books I got. I just generally enjoyed Green Lantern. This was in 1981. At some point, I kind of got away from the DC universe and I started following Marvel a little bit more. But the first one I ever actually really liked was Green Lantern. And I remember watching the Justice, it was the comic book or the cartoon where the Justice League always fought the Legion of Doom. And I remember Green Lantern put Superman in a green kryptonite bubble. So I remember thinking Green Lantern was actually the most powerful superhero back then. So at some point, I ended up really enjoying Marvel. And I tended to gravitate more toward the cosmic entities, the really powerful ones. And the one that is probably my favorite of all time is Galactus. This here is really cool. This is the origin of Galactus. I got this a while back. It was a very short run they did. And most people aren't really familiar with Galactus and the story. He was a guy, his name was Galen Ta, I think was his name. But he was on this planet and there was this cosmic radiation that was headed toward the planet. And they all knew they were going to die. So he figured, well, if I'm going to die, I'm going to get in the spaceship and just fly right into this cosmic power that's about to kill my whole planet. So he got into a spaceship with his friends, he rode right into it, and then he woke up basically as Galactus. And he had all this incredible power that built up over centuries and centuries and centuries. And what ended up happening was he had this need to feed on, basically he ate other planets. So he sucked all the life out of them, and he really enjoyed planets with sentient life. And Galactus was very, very powerful. So I liked Galactus, and that actually got me to like another guy who was a Silver Surfer. Here's an old Silver Surfer. It wasn't the first Silver Surfer run they did. This is number one right here, but it's not. There was another run way before this one. So the Silver Surfer, some people don't know his origin as well, but Galactus came to the Silver Surfer's planet. Of course, he wasn't the Silver Surfer yet. His name was Norrin Radd, and he said, "Don't eat my planet. I'll become your, I'll go around the universe if you give me the power, and I'll find planets for you." And so Galactus agreed to it, hit him with a blast of cosmic power, and Norrin Radd became a Silver Surfer. And so he basically surfs around the galaxy on this very powerful surfboard he has to find planets for Galactus to eat. And then he actually went to the Earth once, and he became friends with the Invisible Woman and the Fantastic Four, and that's where they tried to make the movie, which was not done real well. But anyway, so you saw Galactus kind of coming at the end, and the Silver Surfer kind of fought him off. And actually, here's some old Fantastic Fours with the Silver Surfer and Galactus. These are some really cool ones. I have a whole bunch of them. Here's one, 25 cents. This must be a pretty old one. I basically went to the comic book stores and I tried to find every single thing that had Galactus in it, and Silver Surfer and another guy who I'm getting ready to talk about. And here was another guy here. His name was the Watcher. And I always found him pretty interesting because these beings, they had incredible power, but they were sworn to not intervene. So they never actually did anything. They just sat around and watched. Here's another picture here with the Watcher. So anyways, and then another guy came along, and his name was Thanos. And years and years and years ago, I used to always complain about how Marvel wasn't doing any movies with Thanos, and I thought he was the best real villain in the Marvel universe. And then boom, you see what they're doing now. So I actually have the very first Thanos. It was in a Thor, but I was going through my comic books today. I couldn't find it, but it's here somewhere. So I do have some old, really cool issues with Thanos in them. Here's one where he's fighting the Thing and Spider-Man. Here's an old Avengers comic from 1977 where he's basically beating up all the superheroes in the Marvel Universe. And this one even has Warlock in it and Captain Marvel. For those of you who don't know who Warlock is, you're going to find out if you keep watching the Avengers movies. And lots of the old Silver Surfers had Thanos in them too. I have tons and tons of Fantastic Four and Silver Surfers that have Thanos. And then the other guy I really like, who you don't really hear much about, is Namor. And here's one of my oldest comic books. This is Namor versus the Human Torch. See, this was 12 cents. This was made, what did I say, 1968 or 69? This was made before I was actually even born. But the Namor was really cool. He was very powerful. He's kind of like the version of Aquaman for Marvel. But he wasn't afraid to kill people. So he was kind of on edge. He would fight anybody who threatened his world. He would fight good guys, bad guys. He wasn't always on the good side. He basically just was a very, very tough, brutal version of Aquaman. Here's another old Namor here. This is they did a run, a Namor run. This was the first one, but this one actually isn't as old as the other one I just showed you. And then there was another guy who actually I named some of my one of my training programs after this guy. His name was the Beyonder, and you never really hear anything about the Beyonder anymore. But there was an old series called the Secret Wars. There was actually 1, 2, and 3. And this Beyonder guy, they said he had the power of the entire multiverse. So he was supposedly the most powerful of everybody. I remember reading he actually fought Galactus off like Galactus was a little bug. That kind of gives you the idea of how powerful the Beyonder was. And he actually created a planet. It's called Beyonder World, I think is what it's called. But he put all the superheroes and all the bad guys on that planet. He had them fight just to kind of entertain himself. And then eventually he took human form in Secret Wars 2. But this guy was super, super powerful, and that's one of my training programs, if you want to try a really hard training program. But I don't want to give you all the answers to the story, because it's a really cool one if you want to do some research on it. But anyway, so that's just some of my favorites that I like. So I'd be real interested to hear who you like. I like all comics, really. I've never really read one, or I'm not really a hater on any kind of DC or Marvel comic, but let me know what you think, and let me know if you're familiar with some of these people that I talked about, specifically Beyonder and Namor. I'd be interested to see if you guys follow those two. So anyways, thanks for watching. I appreciate it, and we'll talk to you soon.